What is going on, Grub and Gravel? Listen, I've been on the road recently. I did a little, went into West Texas and did a little traveling through some of the, battleground cities, Gonzales. Popped back up into Colorado now. I'm in San Luis Valley, but I'm very near the source of the Rio Grande River. So, if I'm not mistaken, the 1836 map of Texas, as it became its own country, this strip of land where the Rio originates through this left side of the San Luis Valley is in fact Texas. So I've compiled a few things on the little travels through there. West Texas, I got some spices and some dried chili peppers. I got some really great homemade tortillas on a res in New Mexico. Went through Arizona and Tucson, got a few more little spices and things. I'm in Colorado. So from Colorado, I got some meat here. I've got some great sticks of aspen wood here that we're gonna actually use to cook a little bit tonight. I'm gonna put together a little, old school Texas chili. But so in this bag, came in a very nice carrying bag, some pockets on the outside, great handles, things like that. I have a rocket stove, I believe, except this is unlike any rocket stove, that I know about. Theoretically, I think of a rocket stove as a couple of bent pipes or some welded pipes and things like that. But what I have in here is like a bucket rocket stove. So I'm going to pan it down. Leave in the comments, is this even really a rocket stove? Am I calling this something wrong just because that's how they advertise it to me? Or, you let me know. All right, so this unit right here, like I said, Anbull is the name of the company I got this from. I got it straight from Amazon. Link in the description, probably. And like I said, they advertise this as a rocket stove. Comes in this great little bag. There's also a little deck that comes inside of it that you're gonna shimmy your wood down or whatever. So let's move this bag out of the way. And let's take a look at this unit right here. Set this to the side. So front of the unit, it's like a little barrel. This unit is about a foot tall. This chunky iron base that's on the top is about 12.5 inches wide. And then you're only about 8.5 inches down here at the bottom. I selected this one. There are several that had a little more skeletonized pot holder, like, something similar to the top of your gas stove, you know what I mean? But I really liked how chunky and one piece this top was. I don't know if it's going to hold temperature for me maybe better to keep my pans regulated properly. I really liked the ribby. It has a nice ribby little grip on top of this section here that's going to hold the pan in place. Great little handles sticking off the side. These are silicone handles. Two different doors. So the top door opens up here, and then you have the bottom door. So essentially, the bottom door is going to be, your airflow door, and then once I have it set on solid ground, this little rack sits up against this door right here, and then inside of here is going to be where you're going to feed a chunk of wood in. Now to get this started, you can throw some leaves in here, things like that. You could use this under door that's on here and throw some, like what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a little wax cube and some leaves up in the top here. But they recommend this stove for pushing wood into it. You can use an artificial, like a Duraflame type log. You can use pellets. They say pack it just full of leaves and junk and bark and things like that and fire it up and, run it like a rocket stove. I don't have a whole lot of experience with them, so you're going to kind of learn in this video as I'm kind of learning on this thing. So we'll move this down to the ground. I forgot to mention, I think it is about 18 pounds. This, it's not going to be a light situation, but, realistically, once it's in that bag, it does have kind of a nice little compact form, really great carrying handles. So this unit right here, I picked up from Amazon. Currently it's $79. It goes anywhere up to about $119. The thing about these barrel rocket stoves that I found is they're all around that same price. They started at 70-ish, went to, 200-ish, depending on what the brand was and kind of how this top piece looked. But I'm going to be honest, they all were, basically you look at fittings and you look at handle pieces and just things like that. And I'm going to be honest, I think they all come out of the same factory. There was different colors, like I said, a little different top on this, but all of them are exactly the same. The door, the fittings, the little handles, thing like that. So, you know, make a decision on which colors, you know, aesthetics for the situation, the current price when you go in to look at them, and, you know, and figure out which one you want to get. Okay, so essentially how this little rocket stove is going to work is you set the barrels out there, you got your little doors open. This is going to be the tray that sits in here. You're going to be able to feed your wood in. You're not going to be able to fit, you know, your entire piece in there all at the same time. So what you're going to end up having to do is, you know, just essentially feeding things in as the end burns out. You know what I mean? And then you just keep feeding it through there. They have this set up to, like I said, if you're going to run anything that you're feeding through this door right here, both of these bottom and top door are open. The bottom's pretty much going to be open for ventilation at all times. If you end up filling this little chamber right here with charcoal, which is a possibility for you, fill this chamber with charcoal, and you're not going to feed anything more into it as far as fuel, they want you to close this door. Like I said, pretty much the bottom is always going to stay open. That's where the wind's coming in that makes this, you know, react as a rocket stove, I guess. So, but for our purposes today, we are going to use her wide open. Stick this in there. I'm going to link it in behind that little door just so it doesn't slide good. Find some balance right here. Should be fine. For me, I'm going to go ahead and use something like these little wax cubes because I want to get this fire fired up and going here, and let's take a look at how well it works. So I'm just going to slide those in there underneath, and then I'll hit those with the lighter just here in a minute. I also went and gathered just a little bit of sticks and some things like that. We're going to go and set in there to get it started also. And then, you know, you're in Colorado. I got a nice chunk of aspen wood here. It's everywhere. I'm in an aspen grove, if you can see in the background. And we are going to feed that first log in there. Let me see if I got really nice small ones. So let's see if I can get 2 of them in there to begin with. Not bad. So see, what you're dealing with is, you know, this log isn't very thick, 2 inches across, you know, like I'm almost able to get my fingers around it. And you're really only looking at fitting one of those at a time in there. But let's see how it goes. All right, so as far as coming in with these ingredients goes, first thing I'm going to do is hook up some tortillas that I got. I got a great little set of tortillas outside of Tucson, small batch, kind of homemade-y. These are flour tortillas, but they are really excellent. Just some chunked up beef. That's going to come in at a little later moment. I got some jalapenos, some onions, and some green peppers on here, and a series of dried peppers. So what I'm using here is a couple guajillo peppers. It's just the basic staples for putting together, you know, dried peppers to make a chile. Chipotle peppers, maybe you want to add one if you're a little smoky. I do have an ancho in here. That's going to be like a mole kind of a pepper, adobo sauce, that sort of thing. Arbol. I don't have an arbol here today. That's why I added the jalapeno. But arbol is going to give you that heat. So when you're using the arbol peppers, make sure that, you know, you're ready for the heat or use in moderation. But the main pepper, if you have no other dry peppers, guajillo peppers is what you're going to need. And like I said, we're going to make a little sauce out of them. We're going to do some braising. Alrighty, so we're at about 30 minutes. Everything seems to be rolling really well. I got finally the smoke calmed down a little bit from maybe the starters or maybe just this wood, getting rid of a little bit of any moisture it had inside of it. But we are going to go ahead and throw a pan on. And you notice you start to get a little smoke. Once you start to mess with the airway, it gets a little smoky. I'm very interested, based on kind of how long this took to get up and running, to run a charcoal in here, or maybe a fake piece of you know, pine mountain log or something like that up inside of there, or maybe even a nice pile of pellets in there would do something really quickly. You know, if you've worked with pellets before, they tend to fire up and give a real blasty heat, so it's not an issue. But now that we got this pot on there, let's find out what kind of heat we're going to get out of it. I know Cookie didn't have one of these, but, you know, we're going to use a thermometer because you need a real hot skillet here, up to about 300 degrees currently. So, you know, good enough to actually start working these tortillas. I got these tortillas from a store. It's a little more of a boutique brand. They're really insanely good flour tortillas. Man, as you can tell, I'm really getting a lot of smoke off of this thing. But we're gonna go ahead and start frying up some of these tortillas anyways, and we're gonna get this show on the road. All right, we got a couple tortillas ready for when the meat's done. We got something to sop it up with. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm using a grapeseed oil here. It and avocado oil have a great smoke point, really high, like 500 degrees. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna bust these dried peppers I have. There's a few seeds in there, I took most of them out. We are gonna add these jalapenos. And we are gonna add, I'm gonna add about 3/4 of the chili and the onions that I've got on this deal here. So what I'm gonna do is, in a minute, once we fix this up a little bit, we're gonna blend this down and make it into a sauce. I'm gonna add just the rest of these peppers just for texture, along with sauteing this meat a little bit. While we're doing that, we're gonna blend this up a little bit. I'm gonna throw a beer in here. You know, like I said, of all the things may or not be should go into this dish, two things you're not gonna put in here. You're not gonna put beans, you're not gonna put any sort of tomato products. So we're just gonna stir those around. Sweat these peppers just a little bit here. Or the peppers and the onions, get those jalapenos. You know, and I got this pan really burning hard right now. So we're getting actually some good blackening on there. Let's take a peek at what this temperature is running here. What's it saying? 575 degrees. So we are, you know, easily way over what it's going to take here to do this. And once we just start to get that little bit of brown, generally I probably imagine it would be water. What I have right here is a Elevation Brewing Company. It's local right out of Colorado here. Colorado water, which you can see kind of flowing in the background here. And we are going to deglaze this pan with this beer. And what this is going to do is it's going to finish cooking those peppers and onions just a little bit. But more importantly, these guajillos, this ancho, this New Mexico chili here, they're going to soften up. And that is going to give us the opportunity to make a sauce. So what I'm going to do is I have a little product that I will probably do a separate video on, or, you know, I'll talk about it a little bit here today. Poloya, it's a little blender. So I looked for a lot of blenders that I could take on the road with me, make a little salsa, things like that. A lot of them had a situation where it was a cup that stuck off the top with a blender on the bottom, and you really had to drink out of the blender. They were more for like protein shakes or these kind of a product. What I really wanted was something I could have separately. Here's the bottle that goes with it, with a nice lid. You know, I'm out on the road, I make tacos, and wherever I go, I want to blend myself a little salsa. But then I want to be able to keep the rest of the jar of the salsa for tomorrow in my fridge. So this little unit worked out really well for me. I will leave a link for this in the description. Probably look for a different review coming in the future on this one. But so this is what we're going to use here today. Let's talk about the oven a little bit again. This high ridge right here, very hot to the touch. The sides of the unit, below the chamber up here, you can kind of touch it, but I wouldn't recommend it. These silicone handles right here that are in this thing, look at that. Not a problem at all. I mean, cool as the day is. Alrighty, so look, we're coming up on 10 or so, 12 minutes-ish, on our way to 15 for these peppers to soften up a little bit. And we're accomplishing our mission on that. So very carefully, without totally burning the crap out of yourself, we are especially going to get our balls here. These guajillos and the larger peppers. We want the larger chunks of jalapeno for sure in there. If we end up leaving some of the peppers, the bell peppers and the onions larger, it's not going to be a big deal, because realistically here in a second, I'm going to saute this meat and we are going to end up adding some more chunky peppers and things like that to it anyways. So, I mean, once you have everything in the jar, what I'm going to need to do is actually going to use this little countertop right here in front of it. Our pan is a little hot. Let's get a a little bit of a pot holder. I mean, so that's going to be one of the side effects of this having fire coming out. You know, and granted, I'm using a smaller pan on this, so. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take these liquids and we're going to dump them inside of here because, like I said, we're going to make us a little bit of sauce. We spill a little, no big deal. There's still a little bit of peppers and onions in there, no big deal. So what I'm going to do to make this a complete sauce is I saved out just a little bit of this beer. You could add a little water to it. I'm sticking with the beer thing I'm doing right now, so we're just going to get enough to make liquid in there, enough to pour down our arm just a little bit. So the way this little blender works is, like I said earlier, this little cap just fits on. Once you flip it back over, mixing up our sauce. So while we're mixing our sauce here, let's start sauteing this meat, and then we can let this sauce work a second. So back into this really hot pan, I'm going to put that little bit of scraps I had left of the peppers and onions, and realistically there's some in the pan already. Oh, it looks like I missed a jalapeno, so it's going in. And then this meat. And what I'm going to do, just for, you know, Maillard effect and a little bit of charring for flavor, is we're going to saute this meat up and see if I can't blacken it around the edges a little bit and just get some flavor working on it. So I already had to take this log and shove it in a little bit. You can see, you know, based on the original length, probably in the back of there. So we've burned through about, you know, I'd say this much of this log, that log that's in there already. Fire's rolling, seems to be fine. Let's spread this meat apart. Let's get a reading on the infrared here. We're kind of back down to about 350 degrees. I just stirred that, pushed that log in a little bit, so maybe we can get some of that heat headed back our direction. But even currently, 350 is fine. And once we get to this point where we're braising the meat, we're not going to want it to be crazy boiling and burning things anyway. So we're just going to put a little color on the outside of some of this meat. If this meat gets to a point where it starts to kick off a little juice anyways, we're going to go back to adding this juice in there anyway. So while that sautés, we're going to finish blending this sauce up a little bit more. And you can start to see, you know, those dried peppers are giving it a real nice red color. Everything's getting blended in there. Actually, I can see a couple little beautiful charred pieces of the pepper floating around in there. What I'm going to do for this meat situation, I just want to add a couple of more little things that, you know, some flavors I really like when it comes to something like this. So this spice right here I have is going to be a little bit of cumin. It is going to be smoked paprika. There's going to be some other chili powders in there. Probably moro ajillo, like I said. It's a very common one. And just some other chili powders in there. So I'm going to hit that meat with just a little bit, you know, because I like the cumin. I like the smoked paprika flavor. So we're going to rock that in there too. Stir this flavor onto this meat for a little while here. Essentially, the last step is going to be we're gonna get this sauce we mixed up earlier into here as our braising liquid. She's going to be thick, nice and red. Last splashes of beer that I had in there for a little bit of extra liquid. We're going to stir this down until we coat everything with the pepper sauce. And everything is sitting there just so. Alrighty, so another 15 minutes has gone by. We are tightening that sauce up, like I had mentioned. And it's just enough to where, you know, you have some juicy beef here. You don't want it too swimmy. You don't want it to be too clingy. You want to still be able to, you know, have a little sauce to dip in and stuff like that. I missed my interval for pushing this log in again. And I'm getting a little short on flame right now, but we are actually still boiling fairly well. So like I had said, the pot and this top griddle piece here, this top plate, is actually holding on to heat really well. Let's pull out and see what we got going on here. So inside of there, we got a big fat stogie that's been, you know, still burning away in there. It's just white ember though. We're not getting any fire off of it anymore. But up top, I'm still boiling. So do I like it? Yeah, I kind of like it. It's fun. I'm sitting out here and getting the smoke in my face and, you know, making some old school chili. You could probably do a little stir fry. You know, you could fit a pretty good sized pan on here if you needed to make something for more people. You're only dealing with one burner. So if you're not making things that are a single potter, you're going to have to be willing to swap them out and things like that, you know. So I'm having a really good time with it. Oh, yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Fresh ingredients sitting out in an aspen for us. Burning a fat chunk of aspen to make our dinner. Can't beat it. Next, I really appreciate y'all. I'll see y'all next time.